chain and logistics, because maybe some of you has not done a primary reading of these subjects and would like to understand more. What do they mean? What supply chain mean first in a principle? And what does logistics management mean first before we go and look at what difficulties you've been facing on COVID? Why the supply chain and logistics been failing? Why there is no food? Why there is no fuel? Why there is no healthcare sector equipment? Where the shortage come? Is it a matter of demands, the problem? Because overnight we start asking for a number of things overnight, the like of vaccine, oxygen, inflate, all this kind of things. All kind of equipment's been asked overnight, masks, gloves, where this was not required, and the actual market was not distributing this was distributing to the demands was required at the time. But when overnight things start progressing, it was difficulty for the market and the manufacturers to cope with the demands which happened overnight. So I will share the screen with yourselves. Okay. So this is my first one. Can you see it properly, guys and girls? I think you can see it properly because I can see it as well. But I cannot see your messages now as I'm sharing this with you. So I don't know if you can.
Yes, I can see on my end.
You can see, that's brilliant. Okay. That's perfect. Okay. So first one, I did these, obviously we have shared the presentation with yourselves prior to this lecturer, but same time, oh, welcome, actually, we got another students with us. I don't know if I'm going to spell your name right. Nagobliso, it's quite hard, but, or maybe locally, that would be easier, but welcome, good afternoon, I hope you're safe. First thing, I will cover the supply chain and logistics in general, as I said. After that, we're going to look at them both at COVID with the presentation and materials being shared with you. Now, some of you have never knew about supply chain. Maybe some of you are already experienced. Maybe it is a job you're currently doing, but it's worthwhile covering that so we know where we are. Now, the supply chain, what is it? What is it? Is it a process? Is it a procedure? Is it a network? Is it a framework? What is it? Now, the supply chain itself is a framework, a network of businesses and activities. What does that mean? Supply chain starts from raw materials all the way to the customer. That's where the need of the supply chain. That's the full process of the supply chain. In the middle and between the main functions of the supply chain, you will need to control your supplier's capacity, your warehouse, your stock, your inventory level, your manufacturing capacity. Managing all those will require different techniques, and that's where the logistics start playing a part. Now, let's look at this again. So what does it tell us there? The supply chain is a network of activities starting from the raw materials to the supplier, to the end customer users and the consumers. By definition, logistics are referring to different things, which is what do you require to move the raw materials into your manufacturer? What do you require to remove your produced items after the production line into your retailer and sellers and wholesalers and customers? That means the logistics will require a lot of transportation, a lot of warehousing, a lot of stock level inventories, monitoring and management. And you can imagine what happened during the coronavirus and the COVID and the pandemic, with all these difficulties playing a part. When you have a number of truck drivers, they all tested positive and they have to isolate for a number of days. We're going to look at all these circumstances in the following presentation. Now, with the supply chain, as you can see, we said the supply chain is the main core activity, start from the raw materials all the way to the consumer or the customer. In the middle, there is a number of other main functions, which is we're going to see in the third slide. Logistics are the actual action, or the actual process, or the actual operation is the logistics, is the operation of the entire supply chain process or production management. Now, obviously, some of you might say where the procurement would be failing. Now, the procurements could become under the supply chain, and same time could come under logistics. Depends where you're purchasing, because you can pay money and you procure a few trucks and employ a few drivers to drive them. Also, you can procure raw materials. Now, both ways. However, as we said, logistics more look at the transportation and the point A to B and the end-to-end process, while the supply chain look at the entire production line. Now, we're going to look at all this in more detail, obviously, for the next few slides, plus today. Now, when you look at the logistics now, talking about acquiring, transportation, storing of resources. So this is where the supply chain play a part. The second one, this one is more explain the quickest distinction, how the supply chain is responsible for the overall processing. Now you can see on the screen there down, starting from the raw materials, step 1 to 6, starting from the raw materials, all the way to manufacturers, and in the middle there, between 1 and 2, that's where you can employ the logistics management, where there is a transportation, when there is customs, duties, procurement, that kind of enforcement could come into play in order to complete the supply chain management function. Again, from manufacturer to distributions, distribution to warehouse. On the warehouse, definitely you need logistics planning, when you need to know what's your stock level, what's your end user, customers and consumers would like in order to manage your stock, and you can feed back the information to your manufacturers. So you can see there on that arrow on the reverse logistics as mean backing up the informations all the way back from your warehouse. First, starting from your end users and customers, when they require a number of things. As we said, the healthcare industry, overnight, they start requiring a number of masks, a number of oxygen bottles, a number of special equipments, PPEs to protect them as they're working, their gloves. When the demand rises, the end user and the retailers will give indication back to the warehouse. First, warehouse to keep deliver. Secondly, warehouse will feed back to manufacturers to uplift capacity of manufacturing if possible. But when we talk about all this, you can imagine the level of resources required, the level of raw materials required in order to uplift the capacity of manufacturing and uplift the capacity at the warehouses. So you can imagine the number of procedures and difficulties was surrounding all these elements, especially in pandemics when everyone isolating and only limited number of key workers are allowed to work, plus the difficulties overall in transportation and delivering and all that. So this is what we're going to explore in more details in our detailed presentation about COVID and the pandemic. Now, has anyone got any questions in regarding where you can see on the screen? Any questions? I cannot see anything on the chat. Well, I hope you still can hear me. I can see something popped up in the chat. Okay, no questions. Thank you very much. Perfect. Now, the final one we will cover, it's almost the overall. Within the actual presentation teaching materials, the one I prepared, I presented a number of manufacturers A to Z process. They all have similar process to the one you see on the screen. Let's say if we produce in masks, raw materials will be the paper, will be the cotton, will be a number of elements for the raw materials. The wool, it depends what you used for it. Could be plastic, I don't know. Then the logistics in the middle, if you can see it there. Again, logistics mean that raw materials need to have a transportation, need to have an inventory stock level, need to have a warehousing to move where to the suppliers. Now, Some of you might say, why manufacturers don't go directly to raw materials? They might do, but in many occasions, the raw materials need a number of processes to become a product in order for the main suppliers to sell to manufacturers. Many of you have heard about car manufacturing or aircraft manufacturing. Every single equipment and every single part are from different country, from different supplier could be. And that's where the logistics play a part. Same here. We still would like to manufacture that mask. And if we do it there, let's do it step by step, actually. So let's find out how we can do it. If I would draw a basic line, first thing, my final product, let's give this a bit more attention there. My final product is masks. Okay. So starting from raw materials, let's say we would like to have cotton. The cotton will need a process in order to be ready for supplying. And that's where you go to suppliers. What's needed now? Logistics required. Logistics required. Once it moves to suppliers or manufacturers, then manufacturing procedure will start. Once I manufactured the masks, there is two ways of doing it. Some manufacturers could sell directly to retailers. Some of them, they go to distribution parts. Some of them, it depends on the size of the manufacturer. I have noticed could be small company or manufacturing, they could start sell retailer directly. Some of you might say, okay, would that be more efficient? Because I'm reducing one step of logistics, less cost, less resources, less transportation, less trucks, less drivers, less cost overall. So we can look at these scenarios in the future as we progress with this. But as you can see, when manufacturing procedure started, we have a production line. I'm still not talking about the reverse logistics when the information be feedback, so it could change my overall process. This is the standard process without any digital or clever informations coming from marketing. Production line, then shipping or transportation, to distributors or retailers. As I said, some of you might say, actually, let's go to retailers rather than go to distributors. But as I said, if there is a mask manufacturer who can produce 1 million a day, and he needs to sell to China, India, UK, Europe, America, then he will need to have a number of distribution before he go to retailer. He's not going to ship from his factory directly to America. He go to distributors. And that's where creating the overall need for logistics. Obviously, between distributors and retailers, there is always an inventory and a stock level management. And here, when it comes stock and inventory management required, because now when you come into solutions, say, okay, I have 1 million masks, America doesn't want it anymore, so you need to store it somewhere. And then obviously after all this, from retailers, when I say retailers, could be anyone, could be shops, could be eBay, could be Amazon, could be just a retailer, main distributor, anyone could be when get delivered to customers as per need, or another term, as per order, because your order, the customer, now this is one-way traffic, we look at it now. As per order, which is between another bracket, is the demands. Now, has anyone got any questions so far? Is it clear where the supply chain management, full processes, and where the logistics are required and needed in the middle, between step 1 to 2, 1 to 6? Could be more than 1 to 6 steps, could be 1 to 10, all depends on the size and the requirement of that supply chain techniques. I cannot see again on the screen. On the chat, can you please just text me or just say, do you have any questions? Any questions at all? It's clear. Perfect. What about the rest of us? Lisa, where's Lisa? Where is Vivian in Nigeria? I know it's a dinner time. I don't know even what time in Nigeria now, but if you can text us, guys, if you got any questions.
It's 6:22 in Nigeria. It's clear for me.
No, so it's only 1 hour later. It's not a problem. 1 hour later than the UK. As is 5:22 in the UK. Okay. None for Lisa and none for the rest of it. That's perfect. Now the excitement will start, because we run a model under normal circumstances. What's that mean? Retailer on full capacity, the drivers, inventory, people in the warehouse are working 24-hour. My distribution are perfect. My manufacturers are, all labors are there. There is no COVID surrounding. So this is the process you can see on the screen, and what we just written is under normal circumstances, everything on full capacity, everything working perfectly. Now, we know what's happened during COVID, really. It's overnight, people start getting the virus, people isolating, a number of activities dropped. Now yourself as a supply chain, obviously, once we finish the lecturing for the next week, so you'll be an expert on the supply chain logistics. You will know exactly when one of these steps on the screen failing, how we're going to go about it, what's our recovery plan. And we're going to study that today in the next minute anyway. But then as we progress during these lectures, you will be building more experience and more knowledge on what circumstances, what scenarios will happen, and how you will be act yourself as a consultant with a supply chain and logistics. That's what we wanted to get you into, that level, into consultancy. So if I give you now a simple exercise, I say, during COVID, I only had difficulties on retail and distribution. What shall we do? We cannot move from manufacturers to customers. I cannot send customers to buy from manufacturers. So what are we going to do about distribution and retailers? Shall we combine them in one step? Shall we try to employ, for example, the army to do distribution? If some of you have heard about that, you know. So when we talk about social resources, now you remember, and I personally did that, during the first pandemic COVID back in 2019, it was a shortage on people delivering food or delivering medicines to others. The reason for that, because we asked customers to stay at home, to not go physically to the pharmacy, not go physically to the supermarkets to buy vegetables. That we asked for them all going to be delivered to home. But you can imagine, as I said, when they work under normal circumstances, they have 20, 30, maybe 100 orders a day. When I put all my customers at home, maybe you're going to have 10,000 orders now a day. If I have 3 drivers was delivering 100 delivery a day under normal circumstances, how these 3 drivers will be delivering the 10,000 order I have now when I put all my customers back at home to be safe? That's what the logistics difficulty came along, not the supply chain. because the supply chain now, still there is food on that superstore or medicines there, but there is no one to deliver it. So that means logistics need to be looked at. But then over a certain period of time, the supply chains start weakening. Why? Because the food producing is lowering, manufacturing of medicines is lowering. Why? Because people are isolating. Manufacturers and producers are not working on full capacity. So I have a problem on both now. So you can imagine now, I'm sure now a building process, when you have here health sectors on demand, why they rolling out vaccine, why they do this, why they do that. Now, apologies to all of you guys and girls. I'm focusing on the COVID, on the supply chain and logistics, because that was the purpose of today, because my original plan was to have a normal standard starter for supply chain logistics without going much into details into COVID from day one. But that was the plan arranged between myself and the London Business School, just to make it more attractive subject, because there is no point to talk about supply chain logistics are perfectly good and we're doing perfectly right, which is under this pandemic circumstances, supply chain and logistics were showing many holes within the actual techniques or the industry themselves. Unless if the country you're living at are self-sufficient by manufacturing every single part, that's a different story. Different story. But we can explore all this as well. Okay. So if there is no any questions on any of those, I will move to the actual slides, which was produced for today, which is going to have more of in-depth problems and issues were to be discussed during the COVID. Okay. Perfect. Now, can you please just text me if you can see the supply chain logistics during COVID, that specific one, because I can't see the Zoom screen anymore as I am sharing. It's clear. No, I cannot see anyone texting. Just can you please text me? Let me know if you can see the specific supply chain logistics during COVID. No. Okay. Let me stop. What I'll do, I'll stop sharing and I'll share again then. Maybe have to share the screen a few times. Okay, I'm trying to share now, just double clicking. Okay. I think now you'll see it because it's giving me indication. But still be nice if you can text me, please. Quick text, just yes. Yes, all good. Perfect, perfect. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Lokoholi. Thank you. Thank you, Vivian, as well. Where are you based now? Lokoholi, where are you? Can you text us? Are you in Nigeria as well? You're in the UK? Okay. Now in this part, we're going to start to draw more into in depth of where things has failed during COVID and why. What are the challenges? What's our action plan in these challenges? So we can look at a number of things to cover. We have 25 slides. The last 5 are mainly example of the healthcare, the UNICEF, how they start working on vaccine and producing supply chain and logistics and what difficulties they have faced. I'm not sure if, I think this was shared with you prior to this lecture or maybe not, but I'm sure anytime you need it, you can ask the London Business School and I'm sure they're going to provide you with all the information you require. Now, nowadays, I'll be brutally honest, when we used to educate and teach supply chain logistics back in the past, many students, in some perspective, after 1, 2, 3 lectures, they start learning it and they're losing interest. The reason for that, because it was not challenged. Now, when the COVID hit us, and many of us now, not now, let's say at the beginning of the pandemic in 2019, where many of us were sitting there, no vaccine, no food, no masks, no lateral flow test kits, nothing. Then we start feeling what's going on with the supply chain and logistics. It doesn't seem to be working properly. Not like now. We pretty much recovered in some perspective after the vaccine. Now, I would like to interact with the students a little bit before we start with this session. Now, would you please, for example, Vivian, if you're still with us, how we got in Switzerland, or maybe in Switzerland, you can write or talk, it's up to you. What's difficulties you had in Switzerland, for example? What was, back in 2019, beginning of the pandemic, what was the first thing was that get missing? Fuel, food, healthcare and demands, what was it locally? Anything? If you mention and I'll start talk about it in more. Anything, what was in Switzerland the challenge? Switzerland is relatively small, a small country than the UK or Nigeria, so even with less population. So you'd imagine the warehousing and that will have less challenges. Commodities, yeah. So commodities is one of the things, mainly healthcare. So mainly healthcare, which is mean anything to do with oxygen, equipments, ventilators, which is for the oxygen breathings, masks, gloves, coverage, PPEs, maybe cleaning products, by the way. Many of us been running low. Yes, PPE, absolutely right, you're right. Many of us been running low with hand sanitizers. Hand sanitizers, I remember at one position, I was going to supermarket and there was absolutely no hand sanitizing, or they can only sell one to the customer. And also, we've been running low with paracetamol, running low with ibuprofen, although paracetamol I'm on depth. So that's the difficulties was happening. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that, Local, sharing that with us. Obviously, we'll cover that later on. What about Vivian? Are you still with us? Vivian or Lisa? What about Lisa? What did you face? You in the UK, like myself, what difficulties did you face? PPEs. Do you work in the healthcare sector? In case, yeah, no, construction. Well, construction, this is my field as well. In construction, there was a lot of difficulties. You're absolutely right. In construction, obviously, it's become rules like to apply for people, ask for people to drive in one van, sanitizing, to not share same vehicles, to use new PPEs every now and then. Obviously, when you talk about this, that will uplift your demand, that will uplift the requirements you would like. That's one thing. Second thing as well, you have many manufacturers of concrete, of steel bars, of tarmac, of anything like that. They're all going to be running low capacity and they will be not able to deliver. Not to deliver first because they're not manufacturing enough. Secondly, because the logistics, the drivers and trucks are not available to deliver as well. So there's a problem in supply chain and logistics that's affected the construction industry as well as the healthcare. It is all in the same chain. What about Vivian? Are you still with us there? You can type us, or maybe you can tell us what industry. So maybe we can pick up some example of the background. Okay, well, she's not there. So I'll continue. Okay, guys and girls, anytime you feel we going in too many, start getting boring going through the slide presentation, let me know, or we can start having a different kind of workshop discussions. Because that was not the purpose of this first lecture. However, we can do that in the following ones, hopefully as we progress. Now we're going to look at a specific supply chain logistics on COVID. We will not talk in general. We see what happened. What happened in COVID? By the way, I produced this slides very freshly this week in liaising with London Business School because that was what we wanted, that topic to start with it. As I said, is a hot topic, and we know how COVID are affecting all of us. Now, I didn't ask a question, sorry, why you guys study this degree or diploma. I know Lisa on construction, and I don't know where locally working or Vivian, but where are you guys studying? Is it part of your a part of your industry? You would like to know more about supply chain and logistics, or a part of your models, part of your diploma, or what's the purpose? Why you are interested on that level of study or that topic of study? And any one of you just tell us why, or sorry, type if you can. Is it self personal progressing, or is just, oh hi, we got a new well, we got a new student. Hi Hosio, hi, good afternoon. You need to mute yourself. Oh,
good
hi.
evening. Yeah, I came from Hong Kong and I was born in China, mainland. I think maybe for different, as a person maybe live in different country. For a country maybe must to be have different factory would be better, especially for some products, or first aids and something for daily life. I think our country must to be produced by themselves.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, would be different between countries in the way perspective going about their supply chain logistics. Again, as I said, all depends if that country relying on other countries for raw materials or manufacturing or supplying or distribution, you know. Sometimes, as I said, we're not talking about just manufacturing a mask. Let's say we're just making a ready meals. So, you know, there's a number of elements on a product, so a number of nutritions would be required to make that meal. If they're all coming from different part of the world, that would make the difficulties surrounding. Now, have you just joined us? Sorry, if I'm spelling your name right, have you just joined us, Hugh? I think you need to mute yourself, please, if you like. I'm trying to. Yeah, you just joined us. Yeah. Who's you're based in the UK now, but yeah, that would be great. Can you mute yourself if you like, so we can.
I think during this question, maybe now we all of us are facing with this problem. Maybe in our country, the Xi'an city, maybe a lot of people are facing with this problem. The government blocked everything. These days, with 3 pregnant women and
yeah, absolutely,
lost their babies as this reason, maybe.
As a reason, you're absolutely right. That's why that's why the governments and countries was pushing for the vaccine. The reason for the vaccine is to reduce the number of people who they may or can develop some kind of bad symptoms when lead them to go to hospitals. And obviously that will take more beds and more rooms for people sitting there suffering from COVID. And when there is someone on a pregnancy or someone on a different emergency or someone with a critical condition, heart failures or diabetes, and that these guys and these people will not have the level, will not have the space, will not have the level of treatment they should get when there is a lot of others attending hospitals for COVID or coronavirus in general. That's what was the pushing for the vaccine and the boosters and all that, so that to minimize the number of people going there. As you can imagine, not just the healthcare in the UK, the healthcare everywhere has been built based on the demands. And when the demand's rising up by 10 or 20 times more overnight, there is no infrastructure will take that. That's where the difficulties has come.
Yeah, now, but sorry, I disturbed. But you know, in fact, in China mainland, the pregnant haven't got COVID-19. They just want to give birth to a baby to go to a hospital, but the government don't give them to get into to the hospital because they didn't inject a vaccine, but some people worried about the side effect of the vaccine.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, that's true. That's true. Don't forget, there's not just people worrying. There is some type of people that cannot even have the vaccine. There is some
Yeah.
type of people they worrying. There's some type of people they managed to get the first vaccination and then they got affected with the COVID itself, so they missed their second jab. There's a number of scenarios has happened the last few months, and obviously, unfortunately, in some perspective, could hit some people if there is a lady pregnant or something. If she couldn't take the vaccine because they're under pregnancy and all that, because that could create some kind of difficulties or put them at risk. And then she had to attend hospital last minute and caught COVID. She'd be in a higher risk either. So what that's more about the management. We're going to study that and more in the projects management, actually, not on the supply chain and logistics. And we look at the risk management. We're going to study that later, probably in a different course if you have it with me or not, because that's something I'm going to deliver here, I believe, to the London Business School. Now, thank you for all your interaction. I would like now to start with the supply chain and logistics during COVID. And thank you, Locker Hill, for I think you work in the public health sector. That's very, very important and very, very key workers now these days, especially with all the difficulties surrounding. And the example at the end of this lecture will be very good for you, show you what UNICEF been doing regarding the vaccine and all that. Now, I will start with supply chain. You're going to see all these slides and information are very, very COVID specific. They're not supply chain logistics specific, as we covered only the generals. And I've got more to cover next week, but this one or next week or following week. This is very during COVID, very COVID-ed slides, I would call it. Now, the learning objectives, what we're going to learn? We're going to learn what short-term impacts on supply chain COVID has. What short-term challenges and opportunities? What are the long-term? Now, that's a pregnancy and the pregnant lady example. That could be a long-term challenge.
Yeah, maybe.
Because it wasn't on the short term. So that's where the planning of supply chain and logistics will be taken apart. Now we're gonna see all this. We're gonna see all this. We're gonna cover everything. Don't worry, guys and girls. You know, I'm sure you will be after the few sessions with me on supply chain or even other subjects, you will learn much more and you will be pretty much experiencing, and your knowledge will be uplifted to the high level, understanding the subject, and you're going to know exactly where the gaps are or what the difficulties were surrounding and how we can fix it. You're going to come even with an action plan. But don't forget, the action plans will require money and resources. There's no action plans for free, unfortunately. Although I'm saying that is not true, because back in 2019, myself and many others, we volunteered for free to deliver food and medicine to people's homes. I was cycling, using my bicycle, or even I can walk to deliver things to older people as a medicine, if I can. Using car will require fuel, but again, it was an option for people volunteer to do things for free. As I said earlier, from 100 order to be delivered to home a day, gone up to 10,000 as all customers are in a lockdown. It's a different story now. So that's where that one of the solutions was have a volunteers people almost for free of charge or something. But then at the end of the day, that was a quick win or quick solution that cannot be go for the longer term. People will not, because people was on furlough scheme or sitting at home. They said, let's go out, deliver things and help others. But if people got their own job at home, they're not going to get out. They want to survive themselves. So you can see there's a lot of challenges there. We're going to go through it now. Okay, so this is what we're going to learn. Short-term impacts on COVID, short-term challenges and opportunities, long-term as well, challenges and opportunities. And down there on that picture on the bottom, you can see this is COVID reduced the number of available skilled employees. That's one of my bigger problem. I got high demand in order to protect and minimize risk of COVID. Same time, half of my resources are isolating or in lockdown. Either not in the UK, in any country. I'm not getting any ships, not getting any deliveries, not getting anything. Same time, I need to ask my workers to use PPEs. My workers to use a high-level sanitizing. My workers to do this, do that. Same time, the manufacturing suppliers and distribution are almost on half capacity during people being taken out because of COVID for various reasons. And you know, one of the problems was there's truck drivers everywhere, actually. So let's see what we got else then. So what is the work plan activities of implementing supply chain? What is the work plan? This work plan was slightly different to the actual plan and logistics and supply chain during normal days. However, it is not much different, but it's got more concentration on a specific elements. So you can look there on the left, logistics routes mapping. What's that mean? That means if I was getting mask from a manufacturers really far, because he's cheaper, but now I can go to a manufacturer close by or a retailer close by, save some time, but for more higher cost, I will go for it. The reason for that, to work on mapping and modeling. We're going to study that later. Volume of estimation, you start estimate. When the shortage on PPE, you start estimate what that means. I look historically, someone in the hospital or someone in construction or any other industry need one set of PPEs every 3 months or every 2 months. Now, I'm asking them to replace it every week. So I have to estimate how many people are using PPEs, how many times I'm asking them to change it or use it every week. Therefore, that will give me the total quantity of what's my new order, if you remember. Order and demand, when we say that earlier, order and demand. And that will feed back all the way through the logistics to my supply chain. On the left there, transport conditions. Well, that was a big problem. Transportation. Many of these things are transport via sea. Trucks, drivers, trains, bicycles, cars, anything. All these transportations come under overwhelming level of demand. And everyone start crying for drivers. Don't forget, it's not about how many drivers have you got. It's how many drivers has not been affected with COVID and they are isolation. That's another story. If you have 10,000 driver, which is perfect for your demand, let's say, but then half of them on COVID and isolating, what's the point? You cannot count them as your resources, but then you have to have a quick short-term backup plan. On the right side, you can see forward nominations. What does that mean? Is what you're going to nominate as your next action. Partnership with different levels of people in order to build a better solid partnership, government, the partnership with people at that time, asking the people as a resource. You also need to do, after that, logistics control. If you have a certain elements coming from countries they're really far, you might look at your logistics by trying to get things from closer by countries. Obviously, on the right side are more decision-making elements there. More about how you track, how you look at your global impacts, and how you're partnering with others. Now, this is more as a solution, but this is roughly what was happened, and we're going to look at more. Next one. If you would like to develop any logistics operational plan, what do you need? What do you need to know? If I said to you, you're a logistics consultant, what do you need to know first? You need to know priority, capacity there on the right, as you can see in the screen. You need to know how long would it take to go to that place, point A to B. What type of commodity? What type of goods? What are they? The transport type, mode of transport, air, road, sea, whichever way. You're going to ask also what size is now a big parcel, not like smaller parcel. Destination, where are they going? What country? What city? Where are they? And also finally, the origin of supply, where they're coming from. Now you need to do, this is all for you, by the way. Keep this in mind. If you're going to work someday as a supply chain consultant, keep this in mind to find out, to design or build your case. What's missing? What do I need to know more? And once you know all these elements, you can build your supply chain gap analysis. And that's what we're going to learn in the few following weeks. Supply chain gap analysis is very important. We give you indication of what's underperforming, so you can then work on uplifting capacity or uplifting the skills or uplifting the performance in order to achieve the requirements of your demand. Now, this slide is very important. Keep that in mind. They're all for you there anyway as well. I'm sure the school will share that with yourselves. Now, I put in the slide COVID initial stage, what happened in the crisis. Now, first thing we had, as you can see there on the key capabilities, let's say, capacity risk. First thing, capacity risk, supply and capacity risk. Second one is the price for these things. As I said, you're gonna might end up buying things more expensive, and I'm sure lease and construction, people start charging more money. Say for local and PPEs, they're gonna say, if I deliver PPEs for you, it's gonna cost you that much. All prices were inflated as well. One of the other difficulties, as you can see there, the transportation as well. As I said, what we're doing. Now, how are we gonna work on these ones? Inventory mapping. Inventory is your stock level. I have heard many countries, they have all their stock level down in south, and when the north start running with low materials or low equipment, and then they start traveling all the way up, which was never a problem in the past. But now when you have less drivers and your transportation and logistics are weakening because of COVID, how are you going to deliver it up north? So they might think strategically by having distribution and retailers in both parts of the countries, south and north. That probably the strategic vision of the government. Process improvement, contract and payment terms. These things we're going to look at more in details within the project management actually side, not now. But this is the initial crisis. What was it? Supply, capacity, risk, prices, transportation. They're the main. So the keywords for you on supply chain difficulties and COVID is the supply, capacity, price, and transportation. That was the mainly 4 key difficulties there. Has anyone got any questions, please? Questions? I don't know how you guys often have your 2 hours lecture. Do you would like a shorter break after 1 hour, or you got to continue one go? Can you text me, please, if you like? Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I was on the chat. Would you like 5 minutes break? Comfy break if someone, or shall I just continue? I don't mind as well. I often continue 2 hours lot. I continue with one section. One go, perfect. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. No questions, perfect. Yeah, one go is fine. I've got actually new students as well. Romano, hi Romano, good afternoon. Whereabouts are you, Romano? I just saw you actually now. You might have just joined us, or maybe you was there earlier. You are from Sicily, is that in Italy? Good evening, hi, good evening, sir. Are you in Italy? Is that Sicily in Italy? Oh, Indian Ocean, wow. I don't even know it. Yeah, well, sorry, sorry, Selassie, we're not going to have a break because everyone else would like to continue, but it's only 2 hours. If you'd like to have a break, you can maybe mute yourself and go for 2-3 minutes break and come back to us. I keep try to recover things as I'm going through the slides, so make sure you not miss anything or anyone else. Yeah, so it's on the Indian Ocean. I didn't know about that, Romano, but I'm sure it's going to be nice there and hot and warm nowadays. Hopefully you're doing better on COVID than us here in Europe. Next one is very specific short-term difficulties, and I put that for you in percentages. Right after 2019 pandemic, the hit by everyone. 2019, beginning of February, March, April, when that COVID went as boom, everyone started worrying. Short term, what the problem was. I put that specifically about UK and also worldwide, like the rest of the world, because I'm talking like about myself. Supply chain was impacted. How? Reduction in passenger. Can you see it there? Reduction in passenger vehicles traffic by 40% to drop commuting traffic due to stay-at-home guidance. So transportation, that's good. No more traffic. Same time, truck traffic was increased by 20%. Why? Because of the demand. It doesn't matter if you got empty roads, but if you want your truck to deliver 10 times more than what it used to be, what's the point? It's exactly the same problem. Now, you can see there, truck demands become extremely difficult and unreliable during that manufacturing operations. As I said, don't forget, many truck drivers, they could be from different countries. They're coming to your country. They could be infected with a virus. They could be knowing a vaccine. They could be isolation. So that was delivering. You imagine how difficulties is that. Trailer capacities. The trailers are delivering 80% of the goods, become scared of rating rising by 40%. There was a 14% demand increase. How are we going to deliver all this? Now, as you can see there, one of the first challenges, it was truck operations was higher risk, which is on transport. And you can imagine if we go back to our main supply chain, I'll try to get it here. You can imagine, if you look at the screen, step 1 to 6 again. Either if everyone using trucks between every single step, you can imagine every single step will have different transportation. Could be by by airlines, could be by sea, could be by cars, could be by trucks, whatever. But if you can imagine, big part of your 1 to 6 are relying on trucks, what will happen? So that was, go back here, that was a truck operation failing problem. Second challenge, manufacturing. Let's see what they say. Facilities coming on and offline. What does that mean for you? Manufacturers, they had to lock down. Manufacturers, they lost a lot of key workers. Manufacturers, they have to come on and off in their performance. They just work in ad hoc. Some of the people, they have to isolate at home during COVID or just a lockdown, or maybe they under a special category, they have some kind of disability. So that's just a problem. That's where issues start lying. Essential versus non-essential. Now, what that mean for you? That means if the manufacturers, he can produce masks, he can produce gloves, he can also produce jackets, he can produce different type of protection equipments. We start give essentials into masks and gloves because the demand is rising. The second problem was invisibility of suppliers, because the suppliers themselves are struggling with trucks and transportation and having an incomplete supply. So they cannot deliver with the materials in order for you to manufacture. So you can imagine the difficulties were surrounding all this. Scarcity of cleaning materials. Now, I'm sure all of you now, and still you have to sanitize every single thing. If you're going to have 2 workers coming in and out, they have to sanitize before and after. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of difficulties there. Now, next one, fragmented workforce. Now, the furloughed workers, we lost them because we're not running in full capacity. The contracted workers, some of them, they sat at home. They're not bothered because it's COVID. They want their safety. You got 2 rate of people in the workforce. Some of them could be vulnerable, as I said, with a long-time illness. They might end up at home. So you can imagine the workforce has a problem as well with this. So this was the short-term impact. They're all there for you as well in the slides. From this one on transportation, which was the bigger one, your headline, transportation, your second headline, manufacturing, another headline is the fragmented warfare and the manufacturing. Now, what we're going to do about it, us as a supply chain expert. First one is the challenges. Second one, I put opportunities. I can hear some voice in the background. Could you please mute yourself if you are doing something, just in case, or I can mute you if you like, just in case, to not interrupt the others. But I muted, yeah, I muted you all now. That's perfect. Thank you very much. Now, challenges. We lost visibility of the real trend demands to false trend. That's your first challenge. What does that mean? One day they said they want masks, million masks. Second day they said we want 1 million sanitizer. Second day they want to, actually we don't want 1 million masks anymore. We want something different. The demands start changing and you start having false trend of the market from suppliers and from everyone. And this is a big problem because you don't have indication what you need. Second one, as I said, reduce the level of resources at all levels, from drivers to manufacturers to delivery to anyone, That was a problem. Cost of doing the business start become exceptionally high because the requirements are more, the procedures and the policies had some effect and changes. No guarantee if things would get delivered, focus on certain materials than others, and that start affecting a lot of things. When people start asking their workers to work overnight or longer shift, that start affecting the overall cost as well. Next one, lack of visibility in supply chain. There was lack of visibility, actually. As I said earlier, the information was not flowing between the market and the demands and the requirements, because things was speeding up. One day they wanted mask become mandatory. Second day, something different. Something each day, one type of PPEs is missing. Each day is something requirement differently. So there was no lack of visibility in the supply chain, neither from stock level, neither from inventory, neither from your manufacturers. That was creating a lot of uncertainty. One of the things, lack of visibility. If the manufacturer in the UK and he's waiting stuff to come from India in the island ocean, where one of our students are, or maybe from China or Hong Kong, one of other students, then he cannot guarantee. We didn't have visibility of these guys. They cannot provide you with the level of guarantees that things would get delivered on time and with the capacity you require. Now, what opportunities we have? That's pretty much like a solution there, actually. First thing you need to look at yourself as a consultant, accelerated deployment of technology. One of the things are deployment of technology is by we try to inventing and speed up with the vaccine process. Second thing, working on a smart app on trace and track. Third thing, car manufacturers, they start working on providing oxygen bottles and inflators because they use the same ventilation system for their cars. So we start deploying them into doing this type of things for healthcare. That's one of the things. Second one, redeploy, realign workforce. What that mean? You manage your resources differently. Manage your resources differently. Basically, if you have a few workers, they working on a production line, which is not going to be critical these days, are going to move surrounding into another production line if they do masks. And that then they might require some skills and training for them as well. So you need to have realigned all that as well, don't forget. But again, I'm not just talking about COVID. We're going to see next following weeks how things are progressing supply chain without COVID. Capture disconnected services industry workers. What does that mean? I go back to the industry, out in the industry, found out of anyone with a certain level of experience, retired doctor, retired nurse, retired army, retired driver, retired person who has got different level of skills. I try to get them all back to the industry and connect them back again in order to ask them for help. We did that in the UK when we asked a retired, we had some shortage with transportation, and we asked for all retired truck drivers and retired people from army who can drive the trucks to return and connect in the interim short term to help. And people would help. Same what happened, I told you, when delivering foods and delivering medicine. They asked for people to volunteer, and I was one of the people, the first people to volunteer. So I was managing to deliver medicines to elder peoples and throw it by the doorstep and leave. I was capable of. So many people like that. So disconnect people who they are capable to help. Obviously, ability to add verticals to business offering. What's verticals mean? It mean you adding a new section specifically for COVID. Like all of you have seen in the hospitals, they pretty much diverted 60, 70, 80% of the hospital to be COVID department. Things like that. Your production line as well could work the same. E-commerce market. The online marketing and online contacts and working online and teaching online, that's to grow by a mile. And you can see almost 50%, 45% in the Q2 2020 was everything online shopping, online marketing, online, everything is online. Well, obviously you can imagine that would be put difficulties to the online and Wi-Fi and network providers start becoming, in some stages, I remember we had, when you try to call someone, the network is busy all the time because too many people using the phone at the same time. So then with that need to be uplift capacity. But one of the things, and this is what you do yourself, I mean, strengthen understanding the principle of supply chain for people. Now, believe it or what, I'm not being funny or sarcastic here. Many people didn't understand what supply chain and logistics mean until they sat in the hospital with absolutely no PPEs, no deliveries, nothing. They thought anything I get is coming from next door. But if you look back to the process, you think this got manufactured 3 months ago until it's reached me. What do I need to do now? You know, why I'm running with everything low? Wow, I'm not getting everything. But as we said earlier, that was the short-term difficulties, if you remember. So this is the opportunities we can look at, and they marginally helped the market to improve. Now, a view of sourcing and procurement risk. I did that really. So adjusting economy was one of the big things that between countries. Improve the supply risk management. We're going to study that in more details in the supply chain. If you look there, 32 estimated decrease in a global trade volume compared to 2019. Countries, they do not trade with each other anymore because due to logistics difficulties. So 32 estimated decrease in trading, that's bad. That led many companies to go bust. If one of the companies was only selling to different country and that all decreased, that would be a problem. A drop on the consuming as well. It was one of the things. Now, post-pandemic demand. After pandemic, now we came out of the pandemic when people doesn't do anything. Now, after the pandemic, what will happen? All people will need to get back to normal. They start buy, purchase, get out, do things. That will need more demand. Disruption into supply chain, that even before and during, which is what we study about it now. The supply failure, obviously we discussed that, the challenges, but we're gonna look at more in details for the longer term. I presented this earlier on this call. I don't know if some of you was not with us at that time, but I will cover it again. The actual supply chain is a process, and that process of a number of steps could be 1 to 6 globally known, or maybe it could be 1 to 10 if you've got a specific supply chain bespoke for yourself, but 1 to 6 mainly, starting from your demand, which is the customers or the raw materials. You know what it is, feed it all the way back through the logistics, or you can start it all the way from the raw materials. Raw materials coming to your suppliers there, or number 3, coming all the way to manufacturers. From manufacturers, let's go all the way to retailers and wholesalers, then go to customers. You can see this all clear to you there. Some of you might ask, what is ERP? ERP is Enterprise Resource Planning System. It is mainly when you use for procurements, ordering, and that give you historical picture of the demand, orders, and start to finish process from delivery into production into the consumers. So that'll give you indication as well. So that's there. It's what the 6 potential challenges affecting the supply chain in the future. Obviously, the demand forecast is not clear. Demand shifting, some suppliers failing, inventory level and stock level not great. Cash flow is essential as well. Governments are helping, although same times, if the government's not helps, also changing process and procedures may affect your operation. So keep this in mind as well. Next one. What's our response? How are we going to recover? Now, our first response was, as we said it earlier, to do a number of things, which is best where we are now. Looking at strategic supply chain management for businesses. And that's what we did a number of things, online shopping, reskill, re-engaging different workers, ask for retirement to come back, a number of things as we discussed there on the opportunities for the short term, but we're going to cover the long term as well. Recover. How the market will be recover? Obviously, all recover based on what's happening with the progress of the virus as well. It's a pretty ad hoc now because the virus is progressing as well as we progress as well. So this is a different story. Now, obviously operating a different model. And that's what we're going to study in the UNICEF one, specifically for Paradox. Thrive, rely on a certain manufacturers into doing a certain things to cover capacity. We're going to look at this. So this is the Thrive framework there. Now, more interestingly, we studied the short-term impact and challenges and opportunities. Now, the long-term impact has got challenges and opportunities as well. In 3 slides, actually. So first one, long-term challenge. What was it? Ability to real estate market to keep up with changing demand. That's a challenge. If your markets keep changing, one day we need 1 million masks, one day we don't use masks anymore. You gone from 1 production line of mask into 3 production lines, employing people, train people, realigning people and all this. One day they said we don't use masks anymore. No required. What are we going to do? That's a problem. Searching and try to work with international markets become difficult because we mentioned there is 32% decrease. No one, if you're going to go now to China and say, are going to sell you this. They don't want stuff to coming from different country really far. They might just do it in-house because better. Obviously, longer term labor availability for entry level. Labor availability are now coming in the short, well, not shortage, because there is a lot of demand on labor. Plus, put some people to work at home, that created other jobs elsewhere. Public sector. Digital infrastructure is a challenge for longer term. Foreign investments. Now, this is a problem because let's say in India, there was a lot of investors from the UK. In the UK, was a lot of investors from America or Middle East. In America, there's a lot of investors from South America. No one will be looking to invest in a different country anymore heavily. And that had a 40% reduction in 2020. That's a problem. People would like to invest locally so they can generate revenue and income locally. No one would like to go and invest a million miles away under this COVID, and the country could be in a lockdown tomorrow. Next one. What opportunities do we have? What opportunities do we have in order to go with better solutions for these challenges? Accelerate adoption and deployment of technologies. One of the things was very important on apps, digital market, and all this. Adapt business to new landscape. What that mean? If your business was doing something is not required anymore, let's say you used to do gloves for washing dishes. Can you landscape and change your business to do gloves for disposal one, just for use during COVID, or for hospitals? That will have a more demand. That's a landscaping your business. Changes our commuting pattern. All of us, if we used to be out and about a lot in restaurants, pubs, visiting our family, partying, we do this less nowadays in a certain perspective. Better balancing to lifestyles. Now, what happened to workforce as opportunity? Now, shoring or equals on jobs. Now, you can employ anyone because of your need. You're not going to have them for skilled people because you need people. Integrate technology to create better fulfilling roles. Technologies. So if you created different type of technologies within your workforce, so maybe you can reduce the number of workers you need within advanced manufacturing. Before this happened, many manufacturers were digitalizing and using control system instead of humans. So when this happened, it started work for them perfectly because it's been run by robotics often. And increase awareness of supply chain. As we said, this is very critical. And now people start looking and need to know what's going on with supply chain. And they often hear it from the Prime Minister when he come out and say, we're running low with this, we're running low for that, and that's the reason. No one was know anything about supply chain logistics before this. Now it's time to increase awareness of everyone on supply chain and logistics. Now, looking ahead, what shall we do? Us as consultant, engineers, or managers, what shall we do? Challenges, action plan. First, now we got better indication after COVID was happening, so I need to size and rescale my talents, either workers or either my overall workforce. I need to do some collaborative work with my customers to understand their new demands. I need to contact my customer. I said, you used to order 100 PPE set a month. Now it's going to become how much? 200, 150. So I can start build the plan in the background and put the process in place in order to deliver that and achieve that numbers. Changing some of the processes and tune some of it. Always process and procedures, one of the things you look at. Sourcing and approving new suppliers from different countries or from same countries. Now, this is always a case when like look for new suppliers. Now, one of the new things we have shortage, example in the UK, is the lateral flow test kit. We don't know why, but again, it's a supply chain issue. You can only get one. That's if you're lucky to get one. Opportunities. Shorter and less complex supply chain. You remember when I said having too many steps could put you at more risk. If you can go from point 1 to 3, 3 to 6, that could be more having a simplest way of supply chain logistics, especially during pandemic. So this is there, came to you already. Shortest and less complex supply chains. Accelerate digital adoption, contacts, demands, trades, no information about each other, really important. Capture business changing behaviors, capturing what's getting changed between the businesses as a behaviors, how they change their trend. I'm getting some kind of alarm here, but I don't know what is it from. Maybe people, maybe students join us, then leaving us. I don't know. Anyway. Build more efficient and more transparent business process. Now, business process, many of it had to change really. Either looking for new suppliers, either changing your transportation, start purchasing materials from something local, is all different. So things start having change and having a dramatic change since that. So this is the actual action plan for looking ahead process. Now, has any of you got questions at all? Any questions? If you can text me, please, any questions? Okay, no questions, perfect. Well, if you can just type at least no, so I know there isn't no questions because, oh, thank you. Because if you don't type, I thought you're not even with us. Or maybe you cannot even hear me or see me, you know? Now, likely the current stage for more businesses. I put there what's happened with many businesses. This is for you to read really. Learn and emerge stronger. It's mainly what visibility of the supply network to identify risk. What's the financial impact? What's the additional resource requirements? How to rebalance my stock level? How to rebalance my stock level? Well, it depends what needs. Now, let's say if I'm running a hospital, if I used to stock a lot of different type of equipment somewhere, I might have freed that space for more PPEs now. So that's the things you look at. Rebalance your stock level. Categorize the strategy, which is your mainly priority. Closeness, how close you are to customers, to your suppliers, to your point 1 to 6, A to B, how close you are. Collaborative approach with suppliers and everyone sharing the information from the demand all the way back to raw materials. That's very important. If you don't go to the guy in the raw materials and you tell him how much you need all the way from the demands, there's no point of you relying on the supply chain. It's very important to escalate this information all the way back. Build a foundation for future. Extend your supply. What you need to do, extend your supplier network and probably localize. Monitor the status of your performance. Have a buffer and nodes of your risk indication. Restructure your resourcing, either in-house or from suppliers. Have a procurement operational model. Make sure you manage your procurement well from order all the way back, so that give indications. Continuity plan, make sure you follow that all the time. Visibility of online and E2E marketing. Sense and respond. So this is kind of a number of techniques being deployed for the future, and that's why you can see the market is boosting back up. Communications is key, as you can see there. I put the keywords for you there on the bold line. Define information, an actionable plan, an accurate plan, and accurate information is very important. Scenario to be considered. Now, this is mainly for the healthcare system, actually. It's basically to help how to address the unknown scenarios of healthcare, which is really hard becoming with the virus keep changing from COVID into Delta into Omicron into many others, and we think what's going on there. So it's really hard now for them to follow that. First thing, best case scenario is for the healthcare system successfully to combating the virus spread pandemic. Midterm disruption, governments, and economic V-shaped scenario. This is the scenario in the best practice scenario. Now, I think we are not on the best case scenario. The reason for that, because the healthcare systems are not fully successfully combating the virus spread really within 2 to 3 months, because the virus keeps spreading. And that's what happened in November, October last year when that Omicron came along. I think we are in the mid-worst case scenario now, which is viruses remains, corona can returns. Keep coming and return in autumns. Long-term crisis, we keep having it on supply chain. Like now we had no lateral flow test kits. No one knew about that last year. So that's something, because we had Omicron is developing, is really fast spreading. So that means more lateral flow tests required, which wasn't required during the Delta, because the Delta is spreading less where the vaccine was rolled out. So you can look at the differences now. Government in place, but the kickstart is different. Economy is in a different shape. Now, worst case, hopefully we are not in it. So maybe some countries, even in the worst case, actually, I think we have been in the worst case during the first pandemic. Most population infected, which was that comes kind of perspective, and people go to hospital with no bed, with nowhere to stay. Disruptive changes of business landscape, that's always happened. I think this is worst case actually happening in the first part of the pandemic. And now I would say we are in the mid worst case scenario. Would you agree with me, guys and girls? We are currently in the mid worst case scenario. Hopefully not in the worst. It would be nice to see some interaction from you. I hope you're learning. Are you learning something today? Can you let me know?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Great stuff. Perfect. That's great. Yeah, so where we are now, guys and girls, are we in the mid case scenario or in the worst? Yeah, I think we are in the mid. I think majority of the countries are in the mid actually.
We are the middle worst case.
Yeah, we are in the mid worst case. I think a majority of countries now.
Yeah.
We know a best case scenario. I don't think so. I think we reached that at some stage at the end of the first pandemic. We have reached the best case scenario, but then the Delta hit us. We back to mid and worse. Then we go back to mid. I think we didn't reach the best case again, because between Delta and Omicron was a quick turn. We didn't really get a chance to be in the best case scenario. We're reaching it, but here we are where we are, unfortunately. But yeah. So now this is where we are now. What do we offer in every scenario? Now, in each scenario, you get different offers. Now, supports really each scenario based on what flexibility there is. Strategy of simulation. Simulation is where you're changing your resources. Flexibility on cost and cash. You know, people not worried about credits anymore, how much they're paying, because It just, you want equipment, you want materials, you don't care anymore. Digital supply, very important and crucial, everyone using it now. Supply risk management, you ask for something and never get delivered. You don't know why. No truck, no transport, is it no manufacturing? You don't even know why. So it is one of these things, Target operation model. So your operation model will be changed, as we said there earlier. What steps I can reduce in order to make mine a bit more efficient? What steps I need to use here to reduce? Now, global resourcing, as we're looking at the world's largest sourcing and procurement practice, they are mainly in China and India. And these two countries, they obviously, China was not as bad as India, but India, they had a big wave, and that's a problem. So there is an institution of supply chain management there. You can study, you get a proper certificate, but it is lower than diploma, to be fair. But they had many practitioners and many savings per categories of projects, and that we can look at as well. I put all the details for you there. You can look at it. And they work for ABB, they work for Novartis, Nestle, the chocolate guys. I don't know what that Julius Bars is. I don't know the rest of them, but they're working for them, providing supply chain sourcing. So these guys, they call the global sourcing and procurement practice. These guys, Deloitte, are providing that to certain people. So this is for you to read and see what kind of expertise could be provided to others. But this is just readings for you, not for something. Now, the last session of today, actually, of this 2 hours today, is we look at the example of the healthcare, UNICEF, what happened during 2020 to 21. Now, COVID plan during 20 to 21. First thing, 45 of children under 5 in 100 countries, only 5 market share. So what does that mean? These people has not been vaccinated. 25 vaccines with different products. More than 25 vaccines from 25 different manufacturers. That's a lot. Well, it is good because each country could have a vaccine, but who said the quality and the efficiency of these vaccines are the same? 2.4 billion doses was procured in 2019. Year before that, 2 years before that, was 2 billion doses vaccine were procured. There's a lot. And 1.6 throughout, which has been put in proper in 2019. So this is the numbers they had. It is quite high, significant numbers, you can imagine, And that's a source from UNICEF Supply Chain Division. So you can imagine what difficulties when you talk about billion of numbers and that thing. So what happened in their case? They had the strategic pillars, really. They invested on that. First thing, the stakeholders themselves, who they are, they're the people who they make the vaccine to start engage with UNICEF. First thing, they want to talk to everyone about Pfizer, about Moderna, on I don't know what vaccines you've got. Apologies. All these put strategy partners with these guys to understand what logistics is required and how much they can deliver. Supply chain monitoring and definition needs. They start understanding the mapping model. If you remember when I said, if I'm going to get a vaccine, where I get to get it from? Germany, China, how long would take, how many I need, and how far would come to drive, and is it by truck, is it by what? Understand the logistics mapping. Reliance on a global contractors. Can the UNICEF talk to 25 different vaccine producers? How are we going to manage the relationship between all? Partnership with some commercial, what does that mean? When you partnership them with kind of the commercial industry, so someone could justify the cost of the vaccine. What does that mean? Let's say the vaccine will cost one or two of these manufacturers $1, let's say $1, £1 per unit. That means the others should work the same, not like everyone make advantage of it and start sell it for $10 or $20. Believe it or not, people are still buying it if it's expensive because they need it. Better than they get COVID and die. They're going to buy their life. So that's why the cap on pricing, it was well managed by the commercial relationship. Logistics control, which is I disagree with about the UNICEF. The reason for that, because you can see some countries, they are already in their second or third booster. What that mean? You have first vaccine, second vaccine, booster 1, booster 2, and all that. And some other countries, they're not even already in the first vaccine yet. So that's not a proper logistics operations, because if I have some countries on the third jab and some others on the first, and then the virus changing there and developing, then this virus come to these other countries, wouldn't matter. Because if I vaccinated all the universe in the first and second dose collectively same time, or in a bigger workshop together, that would be better than just do it in some countries and other countries don't. That other countries will remain vulnerable and start developing the virus itself. And that's what happened with Omicron, really. Delivery. Where's the red lines? What countries are red lines? Here we go. Well, this is, to be honest, it's written there, but I didn't actually see it happening. These two things on the right. I have seen these ones happening, the first 4 on the left. Now, I don't know what difficulties UNICEF are facing with these two on the right. Because they talk, we have countries on red lines, we're delivering them. Now, South Africa was red line. I was developing Omicron. But they were far too late. You know, and now the Omicron spreading everywhere. So, I kind of disagree that this is a fully functioned, but that says the strategy pillar for all. That's from UNICEF on supply chain. The global logistics strategy, what are the key things to consider? COVAX is the vaccine manufacturer, and they work on supply chain as well. Updates from them, they need UNICEF supply agreements, they did that. COVAX countries, what are they? The COVAX countries. Self-finance them. Estimation vaccine per portfolio, which is, I don't think so is happening. Estimation based on existing similar vaccine. Again, I don't think so this is happening, because if it does, we're not going to end up with the Omicron developing of Delta. But anyway. Model of transport, air or sea, as I said earlier, there's a number of things. Surface of injection devices, service for cold chain, air for urgent. This is really what the plan, they try to look at things to consider with their strategy, but at the end, it could go either way as well, you know. Capacity, look at forward capacity. I don't really doubt this is exist now, because if it does exist, we're not going to be in a second pandemic almost. Airlines capacity and that will drop. Charter brokers, manufacturers will start having problems again, supply chains and that. Now, luckily enough, the Omicron doesn't seem to be as bad as the Delta or the first pandemic COVID, luckily enough. But this is a God gift really, that the Omicron is slightly mild than that. Because if the Omicron was as strong as the Delta, that will be a big problem. Not even any supply chain management, logistics enforcement will cope with it, because now you have a high level of rate on cases and people get infections, high level of infections. but the death rates is slightly lower, which is good. But on the Delta was almost the death rate really high, plus the first COVID pandemic. So it's a God gift, really. He helping us by Omicron became really as a kind of milder effect. With this fast spreading of Omicron, if it is fatal, I don't think so any country can cope with it, regardless how good is their supply chain logistics, because it seems to be an airborne, this Omicron, airborne, you know, and airborne, I mean, it's really hard to control. It's like a flu. You can get a flu and cold from anywhere. So that's one of the things. This is how, by the way, this is there. It's a global, we came through it many times, global process mapping, process modeling. This is that. We're going to learn how to build and establish one and do it in your proper lectures, not about COVID. So basically, is you draw where the main UNICEF function and where to go, and you can see it's going from UNICEF to South America, then moving to Brazil. Why? That means Brazil need that. It's moving from one country to another. So we're going to go through this more. You can see their key origins are these ones there. Key origins of what? Key origins of the vaccine. And then who else needed it? Who's a priority? So that's the thing we need to look at. Now, this is pretty much all of it for me, actually, for today, with this supply chain and logistics on COVID. Now, I would like to have some open discussion before we break off. So has anyone, I have seen some comments earlier from, I'll read it to you now. Comments I have seen from Romano. He said their borders, that's on the small island on the Indian Ocean, their borders were open since March. 70% of the local population has been vaccinated with 2 doses, which is good. We are combining the people to take their 3rd doses. That's good. So, however, since November, we had a massive increase of Omicron cases and over festive season. Now, the thing is, yeah, but the thing is, what I'm saying in that, Romano, if every single country is in the same stage, it globally will be not hard to manage supply chain logistics. But because the countries are in different categories, you have countries, they have not yet started anywhere near that. They're nowhere near 70% of their population are secondly dosed. Well, that's a different story now. And if you send them Omicron, you know, it'll be like a disaster. You know, so it varies really. Let's talk about India compared to your island. India will not have 70% of their population vaccinated because we're talking about 1 billion people, you know. So that's what I talked about, the plan from the UNICEF, and that seems to be at some stage when countries are rich to buy the vaccine, they buy it and they get it out. And some other countries who they have no budget for it, they don't bother. But when they don't bother, then the normal COVID or the Delta COVID could be progressed to be Omicron or anything else in the future, and that will happen again. So, Romano, he's missed the first part. We depend on import and support of other countries. It is a challenge for us, Africa. Of course, it is a challenge in Africa because, you know, import, export, the vaccine sometimes comes, no shortage. Don't forget, there's something we haven't mentioned. Giving 1st and 2nd and 3rd dose out, you need people to use injection. You need people who know how to inject people. You need a number of nurses, infinitable, you know, not just me go and start injecting people, you know, or you. Need to be people trained. People been injection people before. People know what to do. So we're talking about a number of resources, number of things are required. It is about aligning the countries all on the same stage. If almost globally, majority of the globe are on the same stage, I think fighting the virus should be easier. But as some countries are fighting Omicron now, some other countries are in a lower stage and they're developing a different type of COVID now. So by the time you go back from your worst to mid to best practice scenario on Omicron, you'll be hit by a new one. And I just need to know how many of you was expecting Omicron coming? Yeah, I know some people has been rejecting to inject the vaccine, but this is their own choice. You cannot force people to inject. You can only educate people. I'm like yourself, Romano. I was expecting the Delta or the COVID itself to change from Omicron. I'm even expecting Omicron to have another 2-3 variants. I'm not expecting this to end in the next 2-3 years if we are lucky. I'm not seeing it happening because some of us are in a different stage of supply chain and logistics. Some others have a developed supply chain and logistics and manage to vaccine their countries properly, and some others they're halfway back, and it doesn't work like that. But let's go back to the supply chain and logistics mainly. I'm more focused in there. Has anyone got any questions on supply chain and logistics? Expecting the original COVID to change course. Yeah, we're expecting that, yes. Any questions on supply chain? We're all fine with that vaccine injections. We don't know. We all good. We all know. I mean, we will see. Time will tell. Thank you. I would like, guys, by the way, I would like to know what would you like me to improve next time. Now, don't forget, this is first time. We're more learning about each other. So I produce and deliver lecturers to many schools, many universities, and each school, each university, each students have different preference. Some of them, they want only examples. Some of them, they want slides presentations. Some of them, they want workshops. Some of them, they want open discussions. So I would like to know from you, which is the best way for you to learn? Be very open and shout loud that, Louis, we would like it to be that way, and I will change it next time. Because this is first time, and it was too many informations there, more open discussions. I agree. The only problem with that is about the time. I'm only limited to 2 hours, really. So if we have 1 hour discussion, then I cannot cover many slides within 1 hour, but I will consider that to have discussions maybe 10 minutes every quarter, an hour or something within the sessions. That's fine. That's great. Open discussion, one of the things. What about the others? What do you like to see? What would you like to see? I can put as much as workshops, as much as examples you like. I can do group workshops. Often I always do it. We do exercises, simulations. I can present videos. I do everything actually. All depends on which way you would like it. Now, we can keep progressing, deliver this in the best way you would like to see it.
I would like you to present your video.
Video, no problem. Yeah, I'll show you video on supply chain next time. Actually, on the original, let me take you through quickly and briefly through the original documents of supply chain, which is I was meant to be delivered in our normal studying, really. I don't know, is that shared with you? Can you see it, please? Supply chain operation reference core. Can you see it? Or are you still on the COVID slide? Because I've changed.
Yes, we can see.
I can see. So this is actually the how it looks like. This is the actual lectures, which is was meant to be, but this one you've delivered in 5 classes. So on this one there, you see a few manufacturing like this, end-to-end process. And obviously I'll back it up with videos. So this is the components required for supplier, where they're coming from, and what do we need. One of the other examples I will show you is that the very, very important. If you can see, if you can look at this one there, what this one tell you? This is a normal BMW car, and I'm sure some of you, maybe many of you have a cars. You can see the number of equipments coming from different countries. This is Austria, Japan, Italy, Japan, America, Italy, Belgium. United Kingdom, America, Mexico, Ireland, South Africa, Switzerland. You can imagine. Apologies. You can imagine the difficulties there. Now, by producing a car, that was an example. Again, airplane or another car there. Look at the number of manufacturers for the battery storage, the number of manufacturers. But this is good supply chain because you have a backup. So we're going to go through this stuff. Also, I have the videos, I think, right at the end. And also we'll show you, for example, you want to, I have a jumper there. Here we go. So here, we're building a jumper. You know, there's a power pipeline. You know, so and then where the raw materials coming from and where we are. So we're going to more look at different things. If you go and review with us yourselves in the next few lectures. Now, I don't know who's with us from the London Business School, but I think I've noticed the session is being recording, so you can refer to it back later. And also, don't forget, guys, I also look at the assignments and the exams you have or the reports you need to produce. And I managed to put my teaching lectures in a style to cover that. So don't worry about that at all. They'll be all covered in a well perspective. Only today we wanted to make it more attractive because the COVID is attracting all of us. So, and especially Omicron now is a new thing. So we wanted to cover that. Now, has anyone got any questions for me before I end the session? Well, you need to text me now if you don't, because if you don't text me, you don't have a question, I'll have to stay online. You have to text no, thank you, or no, or, you know, or if you got questions, I wish, but please fire it across and we discuss it, all of us. You're welcome. Thank you, Romano. Thank you, Locally. Thank you. Who else? Where is Lisa? Where is Vivian? They're all finished. Thank you, Lisa. All the best in construction. I think it's okay now, but it might get worse at any minute with this Omicron. You never know. Now is the time to do backup planning. Hi, thank you, Husu. Thank you. You're welcome. I hope you're enjoying the life here. And that pregnant lady should be safe and you'll be good. Either her or any other pregnant, so any people with difficulty or any kind of vulnerable within that category would be good during this COVID. But don't forget, guys and girls, that Omicron is it seems to be slightly high infection rate, but lower symptoms than Delta and the one before. So no questions. What about anyone from the London Business School? I don't know. I can see they're still online. Can I stop recording, please? Would you confirm that to us if that's okay? Well, I mean, for students, you are welcome. Was nice to meet you all, by the way, and you are welcome to leave. I wish you a lovely dinner, lovely afternoon, anywhere you are, maybe anytime you are, and hopefully see you again. And I will stop the recording and then liaise with anyone from the London Business School if there is anyone there. But then, if not, then I will be seeing you again, hopefully sometime soon. Thank you, guys. Feel free to leave. Thank you very much. Thanks. Hope to see you again. Thank you very much. Thank you.